Have you ever cared so much about someone that you ended up feeling empty and resentful? Have you ever tried to be there for everyone and secretly wished you could disappear for a week? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are talking about a difference so subtle that most people miss it, and so powerful that it can change your relationships, your mental health, and the direction of your whole life. The difference between empathy and compassion. People often use these words like they mean the same thing. But the lived experience is very different. One can pull you underwater. The other can help you stay present without drowning. There are two main ideas I want to hold from the start. First, empathy is feeling with someone. And that can be beautiful. But if you only have empathy, you can become overwhelmed and burned out. Compassion is caring for someone while staying grounded in clarity and warmth. And that stability makes kindness sustainable. Second, this difference is not only psychological. It is karmic in the simplest sense. What you repeatedly train becomes your default response. Your default response shapes your actions. Your actions shape your relationships. Your relationships shape your destiny. Let me tell this as a story. Because you do not learn this difference in theory. You learn it in the moments when your heart is tired and your nervous system is overloaded. There was a person named Kai who was known as the strong one. The friend who answers. The co-worker who fixes. The sibling who carries the family stress without complaining too loudly. People trusted Kai because Kai seemed steady. But what people did not see was the cost of that steadiness. Kai had a habit that looked like kindness. Whenever someone was in pain, Kai would step into that pain as if it were a room and then lock the door from the inside. If a friend was grieving, Kai would grieve with them so intensely that Kai could not sleep. If a partner was anxious, Kai would absorb the anxiety until Kai started getting headaches. If a co-worker was stressed, Kai would take on extra tasks until Kai felt trapped. Kai called it caring. But there was another word for it too. Merging. At first, merging feels like love. It feels like loyalty. It feels like being a good person. But over time, merging becomes heavy. Heavy becomes resentment. Resentment becomes numbness. Numbness becomes guilt. And guilt makes you try harder, which makes the cycle worse. Kai noticed the cycle after a difficult year. A close friend and Nora went through a breakup that shattered her sense of self. Nora called Kai every day, sometimes twice a day, and the calls were long. Nora cried, raged, spiraled, and repeated the same question. Why was I not enough? Why did this happen? Why am I always abandoned? Kai listened for hours. Kai tried to soothe. Kai tried to fix. Kai tried to carry. And at first, Kai felt proud of being the stable one. But after months, Kai started feeling a secret anger. Not at Nora as a person, but at the situation, at the endlessness, at the feeling of being trapped. Kai began to dread the phone buzzing. Then Kai felt ashamed for dreading it. Kai told himself, "You are a bad friend." A good friend would be happy to listen. A good person would not feel annoyed. That shame made Kai say yes even more. The yes was not generosity anymore. It was fear of being seen as selfish. One night Kai woke up at 3 a.m. with the heart racing. The mind was replaying Nora's pain like a film on repeat. Kai realized something frightening. He was losing his own life while trying to save someone else from theirs. He did not say that out loud. He just sat in the dark and felt a quiet despair. The next day, Kai met an older neighbor named Lena in the elevator. Lena had a calm presence that felt almost unfair. Not because Lena had no problem, but because Lena did not seem consumed by them. Kai had seen Lena help people in the building, bringing food, checking in on elders, listening to neighbors, and yet Lena never looked depleted. She looked alive. Kai surprised himself by speaking honestly. He said, "I feel like I am always carrying other people's pain and I am exhausted. How do you help people without burning out?" Lena looked at him gently and asked, "When you help, do you feel their pain as if it is your own? Or do you care for their pain while staying in your own body?" Kai frowned. He did not know there was a difference. He said, "I do not understand." Lena said, "There is a difference between being pulled into suffering and being present with suffering. One is empathy without stability. The other is compassion." Kai asked Lena where she learned that. Lena said she learned it from Buddhist teachings and from watching her own mind. She said, "Empathy is like touching a hot stove with your bare hand. You feel the heat immediately. If you keep your hand there, you get burned. Compassion is like using a glove. You still touch the stove. You still know it is hot. You still care. But you do not destroy your hand." Kai laughed a little, partly because the metaphor was so simple and partly because he felt exposed. He realized he had been touching suffering with a bare nervous system and then wondering why he was burned. Lena invited Kai to join a short meditation session at a local center. Kai did not feel spiritual. Kai felt tired, but he went. The teacher that evening was a man named Arun. Arun did not speak like he was selling peace. He spoke like he understood panic from the inside. He said something that hit Kai immediately. He said that many people confuse empathy with compassion. Empathy can become heavy because you are absorbing. Compassion is lighter because you are caring. Caring is not cold. Caring can be deeply warm, but it is stable. Arun guided a simple practice. He said, "Place a hand on your chest. Feel the warmth. Feel your breath. Now bring to mind someone who is suffering. Notice what happens inside you." Kai brought Nora to mind and immediately felt a wave of sadness and tightness. The chest clenched. The throat tightened. The mind began spinning. Arun said, "That is empathy arising. It is not wrong. It shows you are human. Now see if you can add one more ingredient. Warmth and steadiness." Arun asked the group to whisper inwardly a simple intention. "May you be free from suffering. May you find peace. May you be supported." Kai tried. The tightness did not vanish, but something shifted. The mind stopped sinking so deeply into the story and moved toward a caring wish. The wish did not erase pain, but it changed the posture. Instead of falling into the ocean, Kai felt like he was standing on the shore holding a lantern. Arun then said something that made the difference clearer. He said, "Empathy says, I feel your pain. Compassion says, I care about your pain and I wish to relieve it. And I will do what is wise and possible without destroying myself." Kai felt tears. Not dramatic tears. More like the body releasing a truth. He had been destroying himself while calling it love. After the session, Kai asked Arun how to practice this in real life, especially with someone like Nora. Arun said, "First, build a stable base in your own body. Breath. A feeling of your feet on the ground. Second, listen for suffering without merging. Third, include yourself in compassion. If you exclude yourself, your kindness becomes fragile. Fourth, practice boundaries as compassion. Boundaries are not the opposite of love. Boundaries can be love with wisdom." Kai did not want to hear about boundaries because boundaries sounded like abandonment. But Arun said something important. If you listen without boundaries, you will eventually shut down. And shut down is a harsher form of abandonment. A wise boundary is a gentler way to stay connected over time. Kai went home and decided to test the practice immediately. Nora called that night. Kai felt the familiar dread rise, then shame for the dread, then the impulse to answer anyway, and disappear into the conversation. This time Kai paused. He placed a hand on his chest and took one slow breath. He felt his feet on the floor. He reminded himself, "I can care without drowning." He answered the phone. Nora began the same way as always. Fast, desperate, full of pain. Kai listened. He felt empathy rise like a wave. The wave tried to pull him under. He kept breathing. He kept feeling his body. He listened for the suffering under the words. Loneliness, shame, fear, a longing to be chosen. Kai said something different. He did not give advice. He did not rush. "I hear how alone you feel. I hear how much it hurts. Nora cried. The pace slowed. Kai stayed present. Then, after a while, Kai did something that felt terrifying and kind at the same time. He set a boundary. He said, I care about you and I want to keep supporting you. I also need to protect my energy so I can show up with a steady heart. I can talk for 20 minutes tonight, and then I will rest. We can talk again tomorrow. Nora reacted at first. She sounded hurt. Kai felt guilt flare. The old pattern would have collapsed the boundary. But Kai stayed steady and compassionate. He said, I am not leaving you. I am taking care of myself so I do not burn out. I want us to have a friendship that lasts. There was silence. Then Nora sighed and said, Okay. Thank you for telling me honestly. Kai felt his body loosen as if a rope had been cut. After the call, Kai noticed something surprising. He felt less drained. Not because he cared less. Because he had not merged. He had stayed in compassion. Not only empathy. Over the next weeks, Kai practiced this difference again and again. Some days he forgot and fell into the old pattern. When he forgot, he practiced repair. He would reset. He would breathe. He would re-establish boundaries. He would stop attacking himself for slipping. Self-attack is another form of drowning. Then the practice spread beyond Nora. At work, a co-worker named Devin was constantly stressed and would unload on Kai. Kai used to absorb it. Kai would feel the stress and then carry it for the rest of the day. Now Kai practiced something subtle. He listened with warmth, but he did not take ownership of the problem. He asked grounded questions. What do you need right now? What is one step you can take? Do you want advice or just listening? Those questions changed the dynamic. Devin began to feel supported without turning Kai into a dumping ground. Kai felt steadier. Compassion was making relationships healthier instead of heavier. Kai also noticed how compassion changed his inner voice. When Kai felt overwhelmed, the old inner voice would say, You are weak. You should handle this. You are failing. That voice was harsh. Harshness created more tension. Tension created more burnout. Burnout created less capacity to help anyone. Kai began to see that self-cruelty was not discipline. It was sabotage. So Kai practiced compassion inwardly too. When he felt overwhelmed, he placed a hand on his chest and said inwardly, This is hard. I am here. I can take one breath. I can take one step. That inner compassion did not make him lazy. It made him clearer. Clearer people make wiser choices. Wiser choices reduce suffering. That is karma. Now, let us talk about why empathy can lead to burnout, and why compassion can feel courageous. Empathy without stability often means you are absorbing emotional signals as if they are emergencies. Your nervous system mirrors the other person. If the other person is in panic, you enter panic. If the other person is in despair, you enter despair. This is not moral failure. It is a normal human capacity. But if you do it constantly, you exhaust yourself. Compassion adds a grounding element. You still feel care. You still feel warmth. But you are not letting your nervous system be hijacked. You are choosing a response that is wise. That wisdom includes boundaries, rest, and perspective. Compassion is courageous because it does not require you to harden. Many people avoid burnout by becoming numb. Numbness is not peace. Numbness is shutdown. Compassion says, I will keep my heart open, and I will keep my feet on the ground. That takes practice. Kai faced this courage when a family crisis happened. A relative became ill. The family group chat exploded with fear and blame. People argued about responsibilities. Kai felt his own fear rise and he felt the urge to either disappear or become the fixer. This time, Kai practiced compassion as stability. He did not jump into the emotional storm. He took one breath. He asked himself, what action reduces suffering right now? He called the relative who was most overwhelmed and listened. He did not take on every task. He offered one concrete help. He also told others clearly what he could not do. He refused to join the blaming tone. When someone tried to pull him into an argument, he said, "I understand everyone is stressed. I want to focus on what helps. Let us talk about solutions." Not everyone liked his calm. Some people preferred Rama because it feels like control. But Kai stayed steady. Later, one family member told him, "Your tone helped me breathe. That is compassion power. It is not loud. It changes the whole room." Kai began to realize that compassion is also linked to wisdom teachings like impermanence. When someone is suffering, empathy can make you feel like the suffering is permanent, endless, defining. Compassion remembers that emotions change, that storms pass, that the person is larger than the current pain. That perspective does not deny suffering. It prevents drowning. Compassion is also linked to the Buddhist idea of non-harm. If you care for others but harm yourself in the process, you are still creating harm in the world, because a burned-out person eventually becomes irritable, resentful, or numb. Compassion includes you because you are part of the world. Now, I want to bring this into a more personal, tender scene, because many of you listening are not only caring for friends. You are caring for a parent, a sibling, a partner, a child, and you might feel trapped between love and exhaustion. There was a moment when Kai understood this deeply with Nora. Nora had a particularly bad day. She called Kai late and said she could not stop crying. Kai felt immediate empathy. The chest tightened. The mind began to panic. What if she collapses? What if something happens? What if I fail her? Kai took a breath. He remembered, compassion is caring with stability. He listened. He reflected what he heard. This is really painful. I hear how heavy it feels. I am here with you. Then he asked a simple grounding question. Can you feel your feet on the floor with me for a moment? Can you take one slow breath? Nora tried. The crying softened slightly. Kai did not lecture. He did not try to solve her whole life. He stayed with the next small step. Drink water. Breathe. 1 minute. Then another. After a while, Kai set a gentle boundary again. I can stay on the phone for 10 more minutes tonight. I want you to rest too. If you need more support, I want you to reach out to another friend or professional resource tomorrow as well. So, you have a bigger net than just me. Nora did not like that at first. But later she told Kai, I realized you were being kind in a deeper way. You were not just giving me attention. You were helping me build stability. This is what compassion does. It helps the other person become stronger rather than more dependent. Kai realized something else too. Empathy can sometimes feed dependency without meaning to. If you always absorb someone, they may unconsciously rely on your nervous system instead of learning to regulate their own. Compassion supports them without replacing their inner strength. That is love with wisdom. Now let me speak directly to you, because you might be carrying someone right now. If you feel exhausted from caring, it does not mean you are a bad person. It might mean you have been practicing empathy without stability. The shift begins with one breath and one decision. I will care and I will stay grounded. Here is a small practice you can do in real time. When you hear someone suffering, notice your body first. Feel your feet. Feel your breath. Let your shoulders soften a little. Then listen. Listen for the suffering under the words. Then silently repeat an intention. May you be free from suffering. May you find peace. If you feel yourself drowning, that is your signal to return to the body. Compassion returns. Empathy drowns. Then, speak simply. Reflect. Ask what is needed. Offer one wise step. And if you need a boundary, speak it with warmth. I care about you. I can listen for 20 minutes. Then, I need rest. We can talk again tomorrow. This is not selfish. It is sustainable love. Now let us connect this to karma and destiny again. Because this is not only about coping. It is about who you become. If you repeatedly merge, you train your mind to lose itself. Losing yourself leads to resentment. Resentment leads to distance. Distance leads to loneliness. That becomes your pattern. That becomes your destiny. If you repeatedly practice compassion, you train your mind to stay present without losing itself. That leads to steadiness. Steadiness leads to trust. Trust leads to healthier relationships. Healthier relationships create a life that feels more open. That becomes your destiny. Kai began to feel more open. He still cared. He cared deeply. But he was no longer haunted by other people's pain at night. He could sleep. He could laugh. He could say no without shame. He could say yes without resentment. He could show up with warmth and backbone. The most surprising change was that people respected him more. Not because he became cold, but because he became clear. Clarity invites respect. Clarity also invites others to take responsibility for their own lives. Now, I want to close with a reflection that might create resonance. Many people think burnout comes from caring too much. Often burnout comes from caring without wisdom. Wisdom is not cold. Wisdom is the part of compassion that protects life. It protects your mind. It protects your relationships. It protects your heart from hardening. If you have been drowning in empathy, you do not need to stop caring. You need to learn to stand on the shore with a lantern. You can still help someone in the water. You can throw a rope. You can call support. You can swim if you are trained and safe. But you do not need to drown to prove you love. That is the subtle difference. And it is life-changing. Thank you for spending this time with me. Share your story in the comments in your own words. Where do you feel the line between empathy and compassion in your life? Where do you get burned out? What boundary feels hardest to speak? And if you want more long-form teachings and stories like this, please subscribe, like the video, and support the channel in whatever way is possible for you. Until next time, keep breathing, keep practicing, and keep choosing the kindest next step.